guys, and welcome to my underhyped books in the blogger world video. Okay, so as you've noticed, I'm sitting downstairs instead of upstairs because, quite frankly, England's in the middle of a heatwave right now, and quite frankly, I don't fancy filming with all of the doors and windows closed and all of the lights on me. So we're downstairs for now, so just ignore the sound of passing traffic and just how hot I look because it is still baking, but we'll have to deal with it as it is. Also, I can't take credit for this video. This video is entirely inspired by Cara and Hannah, who I will leave links to both down below, because they're currently doing a mini series on underhyped books, and I thought I'd join in and do my own video on it. And the subject I've gone for is underhyped books in the blogger world, because quite frankly, a lot of my favourite books are underhyped in the blogger world, and I just wanted an excuse to talk more about them, not gonna lie. The first one I have to mention is Terry Pratchett's Discworld, because I would not be me unless I mentioned Terry Pratchett's Discworld here, because I am a Discworld nerd, and quite frankly, I have not come across a single booktuber or blogger who talks about Discworld at all, and I don't understand why. They are so funny, they are so on point on so many issues, even though they were written years ago. Terry Pratchett's a legend of a human being, quite frankly. The Discworld is so inventive, and there's so many characters with so many mini-series within the Discworld that there's something really for everyone. There's middle grade books, there's adult books, there's YA books. I do not understand why more people don't read the Discworld around here. I really do not understand it. I'm also going to side note Good Omens on this front, because nobody talks about Good Omens, despite the fact that the TV show came out and everything. I know a couple of people did a read-along for it, and that is literally all I've ever heard about it, and I haven't heard anything since apart from what I've said. So again, if you've got any recommendations for booktubers who love Good Omens, link them down below, because I need more people who love Good Omens in my life. I've got one last obvious one that I have to mention, and that is Skullduggery Pleasant. I'll leave links to the read-along down below. You're only 2 months behind if you want to take part, but it is one of the best series I've ever read, and I know I'm completely biased towards it because Skullduggery Pleasant was my childhood in so many ways. It was like my Artemis Fowl kind of book and stuff like this growing up, and I just love it, and I don't understand why more people don't read it, because you've got powerful women, loads and loads of pop culture references, really interesting magic systems, really interesting world building in this urban fantasy and everything else, and I just don't understand why more people aren't reading it. I mean, Derek Landy goes to Yalk and stuff, but I don't see anybody in the book blogging world or booktube world. I just don't understand why. It's just nowhere in any of the book social media spheres that I'm in. I just do not understand why more people aren't talking about Skullduggery Pleasant. Okay, we've now got the obvious out of the way, because I needed to get the obvious ones out of the way, because I wouldn't be me unless I mentioned these books. Now on to books that aren't obscure or slightly less obscure than those books that I don't see anybody talking about on here, and they just deserve more hype. The first really underhyped book I have to mention is obviously Arusha and the End of Time. As you can see, I am currently reading it, and I'm reading it for the first time, and I am really enjoying it. This is part of the Rick Riordan's Presents series, which is how I found it, because I haven't really seen anybody talking about this online anywhere, to be honest, and it's filled with really fun pop culture references. The storyline is really good. I really like how Hindu mythology is all sort of wound into this in that sort of Percy Jackson kind of way, but for slightly older audience, I'd say, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm also loving the pop culture references throughout it, and it's just generally really good, and I just don't understand why more people are not talking about Arusha, quite frankly, because I am loving it. Next one I have to mention is The Strange Case of the Alchemist Daughter, which I, hands up, do not talk about enough myself, but it is such a good book. It's basically sort of like a retelling of all of these really famous, like, horror stories and gothic literature stories, and it's the daughter of Frankenstein, one of the experiments of Dr. Moreau from the island, the daughters of Jekyll and Hyde, Sherlock Holmes and John Watson, which is where I originally got interested, not gonna lie, and quite a few other really famous ones as well, and they're all working together to solve mysteries together, and it is so much fun. It is so much fun. It's not my typical type of thing, because usually I like a more fantastical element or more heavy sci-fi in it, but I really enjoy this series. It's so good. I've only read the first one, but it is absolutely brilliant. It's also told from the point of view of the main character, like she's writing down their stories, sort of like John Watson does with Sherlock Holmes himself, and I really love that element of it, because all of the other girls are interjecting their own bits in, and you can really see their personalities, even if you haven't met the character properly yet in the book. And I absolutely love it. It does take a bit of getting used to, I will admit, but it is absolutely brilliant. And I would also say you don't actually need to read the original stories before you read this book, because I'd only read the Strange Case of Jekyll and Hyde, and obviously I know a bit about Frankenstein due to pop culture, and that's all I knew basically. Obviously I knew about Sherlock Holmes, I'm a BBC Sherlock nerd, but apart from that I never really read any of the stories or knew anything about the stories that much. But I have to admit, I did pick it up really quickly, so I'd say you don't really need to read the original stories if you don't want to, but this book is definitely worth it. It is so good, and it is so underhyped, and more people need to read it. Seriously, more people need to read it. I also have to mention Failure to Communicate, because it is such a good book. It is so good. The entire series of Xandri is really good, because this series is following, obviously, Xandri, who is an autistic girl in the future where basically all disability has been eradicated. So no one's got any sort of physical disabilities, nobody's neurodivergent, nothing like that, and she's basically an outsider, and it's all about how she gets along in her own like ship with a crew that she tries to get along with, and how she's sort of trying to broker peace between two different warring worlds kind of thing. And it is absolutely brilliant, I have to admit. It's so diverse in so many ways. There's so many different sexualities. There's also the fact that you've got autistic rep, which personally I thought was very good. You've also got the representation of a couple of different side characters who have different religions, which is very interesting, and stuff like this. I would say there's a couple of bits that I wouldn't personally say are very good representation, but I do not have those conditions, and I won't say what they are because it is spoilers, but I don't know if they are accurate or not. But I would say the autistic rep itself is very accurate, and I absolutely love this series, and quite frankly I need more people to read it, because we need more autistic people in sci-fi. We just need more autistic people in sci-fi now. I'm also going to mention A Brainstorm Black, because I have to, because quite frankly that book was sitting on my shelf for a good couple of years, and if I'd seen more people talking about it I would have picked it up a hell of a lot sooner, and I would have loved it a hell of a lot sooner, because quite frankly the world of Alice in A Brainstorm Black is brilliant. It's an Alice in Wonderland retelling, and it's set in modern day times where Alice is essentially Buffy, which is a recipe for me loving it anyway, where Alice has to fight nightmares who are created from our own nightmares as they come through Wonderland into our world. And it's all about her teaming up with Hatter and a whole load of other people to try and deal with this. It's absolutely brilliant. The different representations you've got is the fact that it's own voices for the black representation. It's also featuring two bisexual main characters at the very least. I don't know about everybody else, but there's at least two bisexual main characters, and everything else in between. It is brilliant. I'm slightly in love with Hatter, I'm not gonna lie, and it's just absolutely brilliant. It's filled with pop culture references. It's really funny, and I'm not gonna lie, it's so well written that when Alice is in trouble with her mum, I feel like I'm in trouble with my mum, despite the fact that I am definitely not. So that's got to tell you something. And that's currently my top 7 in terms of underhyped books. I could go for longer, but quite frankly I am baking without the fan on, so I'm gonna go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below with some of your underhyped books. I'd love to know. I'll also leave a link down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, and if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time guys, bye.